The following content is in no way meant to promote any negative views or actions against any type of groups for anything ever. All examples given are to assist in education, humour, and edification. All screen caps or video segments are only included for the purposes of satirical commentary and fall within fair use. All derogatory comments presented by others are meant as condemnation of their statements and education about their views. Cultural differences explored here regarding community and individual reaction to crisis are not meant to imply all members of any group share in all the traits or behaviours shown or discussed. This video contains no medical advice, only commentary on the crisis from the viewpoint of a layman.
Hey everybody, how you all doing? So this coronavirus thing is a pretty big deal, to say the least. COVID-19, at first it was actually being called the Wuhan flu. The Korean official website tracking it at first did call it the Wuhan flu. They later changed it to coronavirus. Some people are calling it COVID-19, but I understand that's like AIDS to HIV, right? That's what it is when it becomes full-blown in your system. I think before that it's like novel coronavirus and then a bunch of letters like CR19. Everyone's calling it the coronavirus. I've seen some people being very pedantic and they're like, oh, well, actually the coronavirus is it's a whole family of diseases, including this and this and this and this. And it's like, okay, whatever. I know, SARS or the swine flu or whatever were also coronaviruses. So I think it's some versions of the common cold, but we're just going to call this one the coronavirus, okay? That's the name we all agreed on. And I'm going to dox myself a little. I know before I was like, oh, unspecified Asian country. I'm in Korea. I ended up in Korea, thankfully not China, as some people said, although some regions of China seem less affected than Korea. And so yeah, I am here in Korea. I want you all to know I'm taking precautions. I have some masks that were sent to me from home. I'm taking vitamins to try to keep my immune system up. I'm washing my hands. I'm wearing these masks in public as much as I can. I've been wearing them the few times I've been called into work. I teach at an after school here in Korea, and the last month was suspended. And it's a small after school, and they couldn't pay me. They couldn't afford to pay me. And this was something I just accepted. I could try to push that they have to pay me 70% or whatever, but quite frankly, I was just happy to get a month off. I tried to record some stuff earlier. This is now the tail end of my time off. I was just so panicked about this thing, and I did record some stuff, but it requires a lot of editing. So I'm going to try to make this video something that doesn't require any editing. Well, I recorded one video that requires a lot of editing. And yeah, I'm very concerned about this. It seems like it's spread everywhere. There are things happening in Europe that didn't happen here, like a full shutdown of things. I have friends that are there that are in affected areas, and they talk about now suddenly the controlled movement of people is totally possible. Now suddenly you can control the movement of people. Now suddenly it's things can go on lockdown, and if you try to cross these imaginary meaningless borders, suddenly men with guns are there to stop you. Which is, it's very strange that this is now only something available for EU residents and citizens during this pandemic, right? I'm aware, like, a lot of this stuff is very scary. This thing can be transmitted before somebody shows any symptoms. It's not technically airborne, but it's effectively airborne, or at least that's what I read global health people have to consider it as. They're saying, oh, you don't need to wear masks, but they're saying masks are needed for healthcare professionals. Here, of course, everyone wears a mask. When I go outside, everyone's wearing a mask. They're not wearing the full-on masks that are like an airtight seal. They're wearing like the cheapo face masks. The only thing there's actually been a shortage of here is masks. Everything else has been available. Prices on soap and hand sanitizer have gone up a little. Vitamins sell out faster. But that all that stuff has still been pretty much consistently available. I do have a reserved stock of toilet paper, but that's literally just because it went on special the day before this became a big deal in Korea, and I bought a bunch because I thought, well, maybe I apparently need toilet paper as well. I don't know if these are going to be used as currency in the post-apocalypse. Some people are just saying, oh, I don't need toilet paper, I'll just shower, which is really horrifying to me. I don't know, maybe they get a lot of fiber in their diet or something. But geez, that sounds like a grim prospect to me specifically. But yeah, it's, there's a lot of us had plans. I planned on quitting around this time and going to an Eastern European country, which has now closed its borders. I've been trying to balance work and life, but I come home from work and I'm just so exhausted. I can't do anything. And during this thing, I was just sort of trying to catch my bearings. I'm sure a lot of you feel the same. I know a lot of you, despite being in an area that's maybe less affected, are suffering your own things. You don't have any sort of protection to wear. I mean, just be as careful as you can. Don't touch your face and eyes. I mean, all this stuff you've heard a million times. Use hand sanitizer if you can find it. If you can't find it, so long as you make your own, that's above a certain percentage of alcohol, or ethanol or something. I don't know. Look that up. I'm not here to give you medical advice. I'm just here to sort of comment on the way people are reacting to this, and to express my own fears and worries. One thing I was worried about during this thing is it's very scary to face something like this far away from any of your people or anyone that can really be considered a friend. I mean, even in South Africa, where things are getting really bad and there's lots of scary stuff, I mean, not only are there there's the AIDS epidemic there, and lots of people with compromised immune systems, and some people might edgy post and go like, oh, ha ha ha, this will solve this and this problem, but that puts other people at risk too. I worry about my boomer parents that work there. I worry about friends and family I have that work in the healthcare industry or adjacent to the healthcare industry. And I worry about myself, I mean, everyone says, oh, Korea is dealing with this so well, and yeah, okay, it's doing a lot of tests. I have an app on my phone that it seems is still being updated. This was banned by the Android App Store, but it shows in places where there have been infections and how long it's been since they were quarantined and disinfected. My own place of work, where, like I said, I've had to go to one or two meetings that I felt weren't necessary. I let them know weren't necessary. And at the end, they weren't necessary. A lot of it comprised of me just sitting there and listening to them talk in Korean. They let me sit further away than any of them were. They weren't sitting 2 meters away. And the second meeting was very well ventilated. And the office does get daily spray downs by these disinfectant people. The whole building that our little school is situated in gets those things, because I guess the landlord is worried about what happens if something breaks out. I am concerned about when we reopen and have to deal with kids again, especially because a lot of people seem to think that we must make them feel safe by showing, I don't think we should show them it's okay to be touched, but because I'm reacting very protectively about this, I leave my house as little as possible. I disinfect anything I bring back in, and the other people sort of in my immediate circle, like co-teachers or other people I just see walking around, they seem to just wear a mask, and it's one of those lower masks that won't actually stop you getting infected. It'll stop you from spreading it to other people, so I guess I should be thankful for that. But their attitude is like, well, I'll use disinfectant every now and then. I'll wear my mask intermittently, and that'll save me. I mean, we'll look at it later, but people have been lining up to get these masks, even during the middle of the night. Even it's standing way too close to each other. I mean, the day this actually started being a really bad thing, I saw a guy walking down the street here across from the convenience store across from me. It's not a 7-Eleven, though those are popular here. It's like a C&U or something. and he like coughed directly into his mouth. No, sorry, into his mouth. He coughed like direct. Okay, he had let me just set the scene. He was walking. He had his little mask around his chin. You know, one of those things you do, and he had it around his chin, and then he coughed directly into his hand. Used that same hand to position the mask around his face, touching the area you breathe around that you're not supposed to do. Touched it, put it over his face, and used that same hand to open the door to the convenience store, right? And I see a lot of stuff like that. Like in the meetings I go to, people sort of wear masks and then they take them off to like drink coffee and this, and they sit close to each other, and it's, I guess the more you wear it, the more you lower your risk of infection, but it just feels like a more of a superstitious type thinking thing. Now, one of my big problems living here is before this even, was the sort of attitude about sneezing and coughing. It didn't seem to be such a big deal. The people who did covered it with their hands and would immediately use their hand for something. Like in the office, somebody would sneeze in their hand and immediately like take a piece of paper or give me a piece of paper. And my own rate of infection, I noticed, lowered even before I got these masks with the breathing valves in it, and it was just the normal mask. Wearing that around these people, and you know, I mean, by these people, I mean people who are coughing. If I have to sit next to somebody for a long time to make phone calls or whatever, and just sanitizing my hands. That really cut down on my risk of getting the normal flu. Apparently, the normal flu is much lower this year in Korea than normal. And I guess it's partially because of people taking more precautions. And I just, you know, I still feel there could be more precautions taken. I still feel that a lot of the things people do, even though Korea is largely, I believe, a secular society. I don't know how religious people here are. A lot of them, it's you know, religions that are very different from Western religions. Of course, the outbreak here was caused by a radical Christian sect, which is considered it's considered blasphemous even by other Christians. But it was a big deal. You know, a minister here, he turned out, he was put in charge of this, and then he tested positive for it, and it turned out that he was a member of this radical Christian sect that does this. It's called like the New Church of, hold on, I've actually got the article here. It's called the Church of Jesus, the Temple of the Tabernacle of the Testimony Church in Daegu. So just a heads up for my religious friends. You all know I'm not religious. I'm a fedora, you know, tipping neckbeard. I do think that religion is important for most people, but there's a really dangerous thing that happens when you have a place like this. And the tip for avoiding places like this that think of illness as a sign of weakness, that take very literally the biblical verses about, oh, well, you can drink poison and not be harmed. You can heal sickness with touch. The more sort of stuff that, as we know more about, you know, bacteria and virology and the germ theory of disease have sort of fallen by the wayside. So the tip to avoiding places like this is the more names they have in their church name, the more likely it is to be something like this. So the Church of Temple of Jesus, of the Tabernacle of the Testimony, just avoid it already. And what they did is they were real assholes. They were secretive about people coming back from Wuhan and affected areas. The church leader has eventually apologized for his actions. I think the church leader, as far as I understand it, claims to be the reincarnation of Jesus. So maybe he thought he could heal them or something. I don't know. So that's a really bad move. And you know, the way like if you've there's some the way Korean people sorry, I guess I shouldn't say not all Korean people eat this way, but I've gone to restaurants here obviously before this outbreak and stuff, where everyone would share a bowl and they'd use the same chopsticks they were eating with in the bowl, right, to dish up for themselves. And there isn't this, I mean, chopstick goes right in your mouth, you know, and that wasn't seen as taboo. That was seen as normal. And my objections to things like kids sneezing right in my face or these sort of chopstick things, these were seen as some weird Western, you know, I was being paranoid, I was being over precautious. And now during this thing, unfortunately, they are still saying I'm being paranoid and over precautious, but and it's really frustrating when everyone else's desire, which I share, I also share a desire for things to just go back to normal, but they're not going to just go back to normal. And at least not for a while. I mean, I don't know how bad things are going to get. The infection rates have been lowering, sort of, over the last few days, small spikes here and there. And, you know, school's laid back another week. I'm going to go back to classes with actual kids the week before schools open in general. But I'm not in Daegu. I'm not in a very hugely affected area. There have been 2 confirmed cases in my city, and all the areas they've been to have been disinfected. But I mean, people travel up and down, and I'm very concerned about this. And when I bring up too many of these concerns at work, it feels like they say, well, they do say, well, what do you want to quit? Are you saying if you can't, if you're going to treat our children as germs, you have to leave? And it's like, well, you know full well I can't leave. Like, everything is locked down. There's no option for me from here on out. And I've still got some savings, but I burned through a lot of it in the last month where I didn't get any pay, and I'm just hoping that this can keep going to a point where that things sort of return to normal. I get a few more months' paychecks, and some borders reopen, and I can start teaching online and hopefully do more of this online. One of my main worries here is it's very hard to be brave or something when you're ashamed of where you are in life and where you're embarrassed. Like, I don't want to just be teaching English. I want to be making this content for you guys. I want to be making paintings. I want to, even though I suck at making music, I want to make some music. I want to be a part of a community that I love. I want to be around people I care about in the nation I feel a part of. And that last one's going to be really tricky. It's certainly never going to happen here, but I feel like maybe some Eastern European countries I could feel that. Maybe some Western European countries I could feel that. Though right now it's getting really grim there. But there is a sense of spirit from these places that I think is really noble, and it's something I've also seen with a lot of Americans. Despite the decline of things in America, some people, especially in rural parts of Texas or something, where even though there might be some diversity, they still feel a real sense of community, a real sense of obligation and of familiarity with people. And I know I've spoken to people online that are they've got a whole back supply of masks and of sanitization products, of canned food and of disinfectant, and not just for themselves. It's as relief efforts for high risk people in their communities. And I think bad times like this can bring out the best in people. I'm trying to lead by example for as much as I can here. I see isolating myself as the only social outreach I can do here. Any sort of attempt to be part of any sort of group helping things, it's just lowered by my own lack of my own lack of speaking Korean and their lack of speaking English. I can say like hello, thank you, and goodbye. I can say like 안녕하세요. And for goodbye, it's 안녕하계세요 if you're leaving, and if you're staying and someone else is leaving, it's 안녕하가세요. And for thank you, it's like 감사합니다. And that's it. That's all I know. I've tried to learn more. It's not sticking. Some people are like, oh, well, you can learn to read Korean in like 20 seconds. It's so easily put together. And I've tried doing those apps, and it just doesn't stick. Maybe that's also part of like why me being a language instructor isn't the best idea in the world, because I have trouble learning the language myself. I've tried to be a good teacher. I'm definitely not really talented at it, I don't think, but the kids seem to like me for the most part. I've had a few problems. Like when I first started teaching, I had to be called in the office, and they were like, Joe, the kids like you and you do well, but every now and then you say fucking shit, even around little kids, and you can't say fucking shit around little kids. And I didn't even know I was saying it. I just swear so much. I guess it's like it's just an instinctual thing at this point. And and I was like, I'm not saying that, am I? And they're like, well, we've had several kids say you've been saying it, and like that's not okay. So yeah, I you see, I just really don't want to do this, but I mean, not everyone can do what they want to do. But I thought when I did this, I'd have time to do other stuff. Apparently, if you work for the government, which I didn't do based on various complications in getting out of South Africa, and later I could have swapped to a government job, but it's very hit and miss with a government job. Like, I've got an okay after school position. I mean, like I said, I had to go the last month without pay. I didn't protest that because I'm worried about this place staying active. So, but some people are like just being able to stay home and they get full pay, but some public school teachers here, they have to do desk warming. So in the middle of this lockdown, in the middle of everything getting shut down, they have to travel to their desks at the school and just sit there, or else just, I guess, or else they lose pay. So I guess that wouldn't have been different to me because I would have just lost my pay anyway. I also get paid a little more, not much more, like 100 to 300 depending, more dollars a month roughly. So there's that. I was fairly okay here. I know that, okay, we'll talk more about the general coronavirus thing, but I've developed a problem called sinus tarsi syndrome, which makes it really hard for me to walk and stand. I've had this now for about 2 years, which means it's chronic. It comes from significant sprain to your ankle, which happened to me as I was moving out of South Africa. The bag I bought to move all my stuff, the South African baggage people were a little rough with it, and it was dragging on the floor. Maybe I could have packed less. I just was in a panic when I left, and it landed repeatedly on my one foot, and there were no broken bones. There were x-rays, but it just never got better, and it's got like only slightly better over a few years. And the medication for it is a thing that causes weight gain. I've gained weight over a significant amount of weight over the last 2 years. And I've now been putting it back off, especially last month, because I wasn't taking this medication. And another byproduct of this medication is it lowers your immune system. So I can't responsibly take it. Plus the specialist medical hospital I went to for my checkups, where they gave me this medication, like basically the day before I went, was one of the coronavirus cases was there, and they didn't even send me the message saying like, oh, my appointment is there. And yeah, so yeah, it's the one thing that worries me about the hospitals here as well is they've all got these little touch screens you touch for stuff. I don't know if they're phasing that out during this thing. I would have hoped they are. They've got the hand sanitizer everywhere, so I guess that mitigates it, but still it seems like an unnecessary thing to have you touching that, But I mean, you just show up to most hospitals here when it's not a specialist like mine, but it's just a normal doctor's appointment. You just show up, you push a thing, they see you within, from a few minutes. I think the longest I've waited was 45 minutes. I haven't been to the hospital since the serious outbreak here. I went once to get some medication just before this at a smaller hospital. I was having real trouble sleeping, and I got sleeping pills. I'm hoping to go without those as well, but especially with stress over this, it is really hard. The sleeping pills don't have a good effect on me mentally, so I'm hoping to stop that. And it's but when I went, they asked me all these questions. They were very worried about me because I was a foreigner. And while that still seems silly to me, obviously at that time there were no problems in Europe. But they were still concerned because I had traveled abroad and stuff, and I didn't take this as being discriminatory against me, even though it was. I didn't take it in a negative way because I showed an immediate indicator that maybe I had traveled. Immediately you could see this guy's traveled, and only when I showed them I had been in this town for years, I hadn't traveled to any of the affected areas in Korea, they'd relaxed and treated me more like normal. But yeah, like I said, the outbreak here happened with a certain church, and people there, like they saw disease as like a sign of weakness, a sign of lack of faith. They all sit in a crowded hall with recycled air. They even had little things like little fingerprint readers they used to show you were there. They had services way more than once a week. More responsible churches have, of course, closed up. They've been doing online sermons. They understand that religion is something for your spirit, for your soul, and they don't necessarily make these ridiculous claims of supernatural healing ability, which I don't care if you're a theist or an atheist or whatever. That's just not something that you should bank on ever. So anyway, I'm looking here at the Korean pandemic. It was, the Korean epidemic, but it's a global pandemic now. They finally said it. The World Health Organization's finally said it, right? Sorry, I've got a bit of a runny nose. That's the problem with this. This is pollen season, and there's no way of knowing if it's pollen or not. The one thing is that I don't have a dry throat or a sore throat, so who knows, right? Anyway, so during the 4 weeks, Korea controlled the spread of COVID-19 by using high-tech resources like tracking the use of credit cards and checking CCTV footage of confirmed patients. So this is part of like having less freedom, because here in Korea you have less freedom. I support this, but of course pornography is banned. I think that's a good policy. Some people would see that as a freedom of speech infringement. Generally, it's very... You have freedom of speech to say other things, just pornography isn't allowed in it, which I think that's great. You can criticize the government all you want. There's no sort of, as far as I know, restrictions on hate speech. Racism isn't even seen as a real thing here, though they are very sensitive about insults to their own culture and their own people. The one thing I don't like is this really vicious hatred towards the Japanese. The things the Japanese did to the Korean people, of course, I can't defend. But the amount for just individual Japanese people, the amount of vitriol, and even really young kids that unprompted out of nowhere will just talk about how much they hate Japan and how Japan is trash. I mean, Japan has given Korea a lot of money. They've made several apologies with this whole COVID-19 outbreak. The tensions between Japan and Korea have really gone up. Of course, the Diamond Princess, I think that was like Japan released some people back into Korea during that, and now Korea's doing way worse, at least as far as we know, than Japan. Korea's also been doing a lot more tests, so it's hard to tell. But yeah, tracking of people, like I said, the 2 people in my city who were confirmed to have it, it's a city, it's not a big city, it's like 300,000 people, but still, the places where they had it, they let you know when it was there, they let you know when it was under quarantine, they let you know when the disinfection had happened there, they also let you know when these people were released from quarantine. They didn't release their names and faces to the public. I think that's probably a good move, because people can get hysterical over stuff like this and turn on each other. But there's been a lot of, like I said, the stores aren't running out of stuff. People here aren't panicking. Now, maybe part of that is them being complacent, or maybe part of that is they've just got more faith in their healthcare system, and just in the people around them. Because, I mean, Korea is 99% Korean. It was actually funny. This was long ago, but I was teaching a class, and the book we were sort of practicing, the reading book, was cultures around the world, and it was like, so-and-so is white, they're from Scotland, so-and-so is black, they're from Africa, so-and-so is Asian, they're from Thailand. And I had to explain to them what Asian meant. It was like, well, Asian, you're Asian, and so are Taiwanese people, and so are Chinese people. All these people are Asian. Japanese people are Asian. And they're like, oh, no. I was like, look, I don't care how you feel about Japan, they're still Asian people. And then I said, well, look here, like, for example, Korea is 99% Korean. And of the 1% that aren't Korean, most of those are Chinese. And one of the kids got up, he was like, Joe, teacher, no! And he walked up and he, like, erased the 99 and 1%, and he wrote, like, 100%. It was like, 100%! And I thought that was really cute. He was like, but you can stay, Joe, teacher. Like, you're the one Waygook that can stay. Oh, God, can I even use that term on YouTube? I guess it's okay, right? That's like the word for non-Korean people. Okay, so anyway, yeah, this is, we've got here, this is the official government website. It's the best one I've found so far. I don't know if there's like better ones. I've used an auto translate here. It doesn't work on everything. As of the time of recording this, 219,000. I'm like Jacob Zuma. 20 to 30, 10 to 19 T. No, okay. 219,054 people have it. 8,964 people have died from it. 682 today. 85,725 people are in isolation. It has a global mortality rate of 4.09%. This is going to go up. All of these numbers are going to go up. And 173 countries are like, I don't know what this means exactly. So that's one of the problems. But here, look, we've got 8,563 confirmed cases in Korea, 91 dead, 1,942 people in isolation. The mortality rate is going up. It's lower than the global average, but it's going up. It's like last week it was like 0.5%, was like 0.5%. Now it's 1.06% and rising. These people are ones that I'm not exactly sure. I think these are the ones that have been inspected. These are all the ones that have been inspected. These are the ones that are currently under examination right now. And these are the people who the inspection resulted in negative. And part of this is to help people know, well, you go in, you get inspected, you get checked, and you're probably going to be fine. Even if you have flu symptoms, it's probably not this. And people are getting tested. They've, of course, got the famous drive-through testing things that other countries are copying. There have been no lockdowns here like there have been in Europe. I do know I have some European viewers and some European listeners. All I can say is, I think that the sort of strength and solidarity I've seen from people there has been very inspiring. And we're also going to talk maybe about why certain places are so hard hit. As you can see here, Italy has especially been hard hit. The number of deaths in Italy is hugely more than in Korea. Even though Korea also has an aging population, it's not as aging as Italy. And Italy has a public healthcare service, but I guess it's not as prepared for this as Korea's was. There's also other things happening in Italy. But of course, there's huge amounts of Chinese immigrants here as well. Like I was saying, here in Korea, about most of the 1% of people who aren't Korean are Chinese. So there's huge amounts of Chinese immigrants. But Italy, has a huge amount of Chinese workers, which we'll get into that. But because you see, companies, they want Chinese workers to pay Chinese worker prices, but they want the made in Italy label. So they'll try to get similar numbers, under their bottom line as China, similar wages, by importing huge amounts of workers to work in Italian factories. So it's like made in Italy, but it's made by basically, people who get paid way below what they would pay locals. Basically indentured servants, I guess, from China. And obviously the cost of living in Italy much higher than in China. And it's Korea. I don't know to what extent they use Chinese laborers. I'm sure they do. There's lots of protectionism here around Korean labor. So maybe that's the difference. I don't know to what extent Italy had protectionism for its own workers. Of course, we can look here. China is the worst hit. Then Italy. Then Iran. Then Spain. Then Germany. Then the United States. Then France. Then Korea. So, we were not long ago the second hardest hit. And, a lot of people talk about, well, you need authoritarianism to keep this at bay. China used authoritarianism to keep this at bay. And I don't know to what extent that's true. I think that a lot of the authoritarianism in China might have prevented the spread of information. Of course, China's got other concerns. They're not as developed as Korea. But Korea has been very... some people are very angry at them for not closing their borders sooner or closing it more effectively. Even now, there's travel restrictions from certain places. But even at the beginning, maybe this could have been prevented altogether if that was done earlier. But right now, sort of allowing freedom of information and having a coherent community based around a shared identity, which most people here do, and keeping people informed and keeping supplies up seems to be working for now. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. Things could spike. This could just end civilization as we know it. I don't think it will. I think a lot of people have died. A lot more people are going to die. I'm worried about my older relatives, as should you be. Recently, a kid who's like 17 here died. I think he had pre-existing conditions. I myself do have allergies. Like I said, I have to take the special nasal spray. I think I mentioned that. And I think it contains steroids. So I don't know if it's going to lower my immune system. I hope not. And I'm also technically my BMI index is now obese. Back when I was in South Africa, it was just overweight, and now it's into the obese range, and this does put me at greater risk. In general, I passed a health thing here, a health crisis. So, not a health crisis, a health inspection. So I guess I'm relatively healthy, but I'm also worried about just getting sick and my job becoming redundant and not being able to find another job, and being in a country with a fairly high cost of living. I mean, not as high as in the US, but higher than some places. I mean, I know some people live in rural US. They're fucking living for very little money, but they're still worried about getting sick. And that's one of the real problems. I mean, this is, a lot of people, this has been a leftist talking point, but it's something that I think has always been a problem in America is the healthcare. Now, a few years ago, when I was more of a libertarian, on a libertarian kick, I was saying about how great it was there, but you need more sort of social things to help people pay for healthcare. But I've realized a lot of this libertarian stuff, it's just to stop you from fighting. It's just to stop you from saying, I'm not allowed, because I'm like part of a group that it's taboo to advocate for my own interests. So I won't be advocating for any interests, and no one should, right? So we've been going a while. I haven't gone through all my links yet, but yeah, it's that's sort of how things are going here. And a sort of quick comment: I haven't mentioned how things are in South Africa. People there are worried. I don't know if you've seen. There's been like attacks on Asian nationals in Africa. I'm not going to show those videos, partially because they've been taken down a lot of places. I guess you can find them on LiveLeak if you really want to, where people are yelling like at Asian people, like, "Hey, you coronavirus! You coronavirus!" And sort of reacting very badly. But you don't hear a lot about that racism. You just hear about, well, racism. I guess, is it even racism? Because do they have systemic privilege over the Asians, They'll attacking them and harassing them because of their race, but as we all know, it's power plus privilege plus sugar plus salt plus eggs plus 180 degrees Celsius for 30 minutes equals delicious, or whatever. It's it's just all so tiresome. We'll look at some of the reactions in South Africa later. Of course, there's problems with water and electricity in South Africa. People live in shacks close to each other with compromised immune systems. Tuberculosis is still that's like some Depression era bullshit, but that's still a big concern in South Africa, right? And yeah, it's it's just but we'll get to South Africa later. Anyway, here's the thing I want to talk about. These people standing in line. Like, look at this. There's no social distancing being done here. This is in the affected area. I've seen other videos of people standing in line like this in the middle of the night before a store opens just to hope to get a mask. And like, look, guys, I'm going to say, a lot of the Western government saying, oh, masks don't help stop community infections. Masks don't stop you from getting infected. That's so that masks can be preserved for healthcare providers. I guess they might be right that it's not so effective in preventing community infections, but if you have an N95 mask or an equivalent type mask that is airtight, the ones I've got are for paint sanding. They're like I don't know the exact thing, but it's like a European F2 or something, or N2, which is apparently the equivalent of an N95 mask. It fits really tight. It has the most air seal of any mask I've used so far. Okay, because there's a shortage of masks, people have now they get an alert from the government like, oh, if your ID number ends in such and such a number, today you can come in and buy masks. The app that's allowed is the one released by the government, which says oh, if you, these places have masks you can come and buy, and people are buying these masks, and it's not the N95 or whatever masks, it's just the ones that stop you preventing it from spreading to other people. I'm not sure how many people think it stops you from getting sick or just spreading to other people. I know that the people I work with seem to think it stops you from getting sick. I guess it's helpful for me because they're wearing it, and I'm wearing one that will actually apparently lower my risk of getting sick. I don't know. But masks aren't magic. It's something that I feel a lot of people here aren't that aware of, as masks aren't magic. But it's almost worn like a good luck charm. I've seen other people complain about, people taking off their mask to cough and then putting it back on, and that just, what's the point of it then? What's it going to do? Nothing. Okay, so coughing on bread in the supermarket, I've even seen that. So I'm just buying food that's in a package. The one thing I don't buy, I buy apples in a package, right? And then I wash it to sterilize it to eat it. Everything else I buy is packaged. I also buy eggs, and I wash it off. But I'm not buying any sort of fresh meat or any open vegetables. I get my I'm getting my healthy carbs from kimchi right now, and low calorie noodles and whatever. Trying to get some of the weight I put on off. I haven't been going to the gym. I've got a really nice gym here that's between my work and where I live. Obviously, I haven't been going. I don't know how their business is doing over all this. I guess gyms make money whether people go or not. It's just new sign-ups that they rely on that, I don't know, they might even, who knows. It makes no difference to me if they close down, because I think I'm going to be doing bodyweight exercises until I leave Korea, basically. And who knows when that will be. I was going to stick it out until January, February, March, April, May, June, July. Until the end of July to get my bonus at least, which is a whole month's salary. It's about $2,000, a little more. And, I don't know if, I guess now all the money you need is worth it. But I'm feeling like, we'll see. We'll see what I decide to do. We'll see what the situation looks like globally. I was planning on leaving anyway because of the problems with my sinus tarsi, and yeah, it's been rough. It's been rough being so far away from people, having this medical problem, just feeling tired all the time. I wish I'd taught at a public school, because then apparently I would have had more free time, right? And there wouldn't have been this worry with me, with them insisting we need to open up, or me losing payment. And it's just been really rough. Certain people, I'm not going to get into drama, but certain people put me in this position, and I could have done more to prevent this position myself. I'm a big boy, I'm an adult, but and like I said, maybe I got a government job, and maybe I got assigned right in the middle of Daegu, and I would have had to deal with this thing at its worst, so. Maybe don't be bitter about everything. I remember there was that one story about the about some soldier. I forget what this is from. I think it's from 13 Warriors or something, which I haven't watched. Maybe I should watch it. But he gets injured and he's upset because he can't go off to fight in war. But then his battalion that he would have been in gets killed or something, and he survives. So bad things happen to you, and you're still okay, so you don't know if something good or bad is going to be good or bad until the future, right? So Seoul, right, Korea recorded, blah blah blah. What's this one about? Why do I have this up? Church cluster outbreak. Okay, so yeah, there's a new church cluster outbreak, and this is really, I'll tell you, man, this whole thing about being around churches, and a lot of religious people who are still even a lot of moderate religious people who are just oh, well, it's still fine. The funny thing is, I was thinking, maybe something is missing in my life. Maybe I need to turn to religion when this happened. I can't just focus on material things. This life is transitory. I need something more, maybe. And then as I was thinking that all this happened, and there was all these outbreaks at churches and stuff, and it just sort of inflamed my fedora. Both this happening and just the reaction to so many religious places and so many religious institutions going oh, just pray and Jesus will heal you, and not locking down services. I understand that not all churches are like that. Not all churches are reacting like that, but certain churches reacting like that is really confirmation bias the fuck out of me not being a religious person. So anyway, or at least not being a person of faith. We can talk about what religion means or whatever, but I do think, like, if I was a religious person, I would be a fundamentalist. And any idea I get, I do seem to become a fundamentalist over that idea. Anyway, coronavirus saltwater spray infects 64, geez, I can't even read numbers anymore. 46 churchgoers in South Korea. So yeah, this is a church that thought spraying salt water in your mouth was gonna be like gonna solve it. And look, it's right up there. Or it's like, I don't know what, like, spray. This is such a bad idea. Like, making contact here and spraying it. This is the worst idea. This is the worst idea you could have. Okay, there's no video here, but yeah, like. It's just so bad. No, there's stuff that happens in certain churches in South Africa where, like, a preacher is like, oh, well, drink this petrol. It'll turn into pineapple juice. Oh, well, we can all take rat poison and not die because it says so in the Bible. And no, it doesn't work. There's more minor cases like the preacher, like, spraying his congregation with bug spray or telling them they could eat grass or something like that. And it's really funny, sometimes tragic as well, with people actually dying, but a lot of times it's just funny with them eating grass and stuff. And here it's the same thing. It's like, we're gonna put salt water right on you. It's also, showing a sort of superstitious thinking, which is not, the sort of non-religious or secular community is not exempt from this. Like I was saying, a lot of people have a sort of religious reaction or sort of good luck charm idea of masks here. But really, it's like, at least that could be somewhat effective or help sometimes. Obviously not when they're crowding like that, but the government seems to have come down on that. But yeah, this is like really silly. So now we're getting into more stuff. Paul Joseph Watson posted a thing on Infowars, or I don't know if it's his own blog. I don't keep up with those guys too much. But that patient 0 came from Italy. And he was I think a Pakistani migrant who refused to self-isolate. And the sort of the woke debunking thing is like, well, no evidence, food delivery man was coronavirus patient 0 in Italy. Now, what the debunking here is doing is there's no argument whether or not this guy existed. It was reported in I'm actually having a hard time with all that's going on with this, finding the original article, but even here they said it was reported in an Italian news source, and then it was misreported that this guy was patient 0. Now, while no one knows who patient 0 is, but the thing is, people who read this, they go like, oh, well, the whole story's made up. It's like, well, no, it was true. This guy was told to self-isolate. He was told to self-quarantine. Instead, he went around and delivered food. So, let's see here. Conspiracy theories. As spokesmen, we know of no evidence to support the claim. Italian authorities have been clear that no possible stage of identifying patient 0. So you see, they're saying, well, this guy's not necessarily patient 0. And that's why it's so important I think you should have your facts in a row, because the other side can make wild claims, and no matter how much stuff of theirs you debunk, people are taught this stuff from day one since the little kids. And it's like, well, the general thing could still be true, even though this and this and this. But here, it's like, well, one piece of information was false. The rest, they're even admitting here, was true. And it's like, well, no, it's all false, because he wasn't necessarily patient 0. I mean, he might have been, but there's no way of knowing. So don't report, even though you're going to get more page hits with saying patient 0, use a term like super spreader or something. It's and maybe people then could like nitpick it and say, well, technically he didn't infect enough people to be considered a super spreader. It's just like, yeah, I don't think it's a good idea. So news articles, including Free West Media, falsely cited, okay, here we go, it's And Kronos, which is the Italian agency, in making the claim. And Kronos released a story that a Pakistani man who delivers Chinese food did not quarantine himself in Italy after having a positive coronavirus test. So, I mean, I've actually shared this article because I feel it's better than posting the Italian thing. But it's still, I show this to liberals to say, well, look, this is a danger of just this sort of globalist idea that they're really doubling down on during this time, where it's very obvious why having borders people can control, why having communities that are coherent and people can be a part of is so important. They're really trying to push down on, and also showing why this whole sort of global supply chain where everything's made in just one part of the world, and because it's cheaper there and the market decides it and you export it everywhere, why that system is way too fragile to suffer any of the various things that can happen to us here on this precious little blue marble. There's all sorts of tragedies that can happen. This is one of the big ones. Microscopic bacteria. I think it's the true rulers of the planet Earth. I actually thought it was a Carl Sagan quote, but I couldn't find the quote, so I guess it's just me. Maybe, I'm going to say a lot while giving it, which is unfortunate, but let's say this, in this parable, in this hypothetical, a bunch of aliens come to Earth, and they look and they want to see the dominant form of life, and at first they see these four-wheeled things moving about, and they seem to be expelling all this gas into the atmosphere, and everything seems to be mapped around them. Roads are built for their consideration, and they assume, well, these must be the dominant form of life on Earth. Everything's made to them, and then they start seeing that these things, they have little creatures living inside of them that get in them and drive around, and they think, oh, well, it must be a parasite, must be some sort of organism like that. And then they realize, oh wait, no, actually, these creatures, these two-legged, ape creatures, which humans are, these two-legged primate creatures, are the actual dominant form on Earth. These pink primates, or these pink and brown and beige and all the colors of the rainbow, whatever. These primates, these two-legged hominids, they're the dominant species on Earth. They run everything. Until they take some closer closer inspections, and they realize, no, wait, actually, the true rulers on Earth, the true things that decide what happens on Earth, the alpha species on Earth are microscopic organisms, and they decide everything. And, a lot of people, they don't realize how serious this is. They're like, oh, it's just the flu, bro. Oh, it's just nothing, bro. They don't get that, that we're lucky we've never seen anything like this before. The last time we saw something like this was about 100 years ago, a little over 100 years ago, and it killed a huge amount of people. It had a lower mortality rate of this thing, and it killed like 50 million people. That is, of course, the Spanish flu, which some experts are now also theorizing might have started in China. So yeah, another interesting thing here is leading up to this, just sort of the open, like as you're being told to not be racist and this, sort of the open anti-Chinese statements made by the kids in my class, This sort of horror and disgust at that they would eat bats or eat it in soup, even though here they eat dogs. It's technically illegal, I think, but some people still do. It's something I obviously don't support. I don't think dogs should be food. And dogs have now been confirmed that they could be carrying the disease, which is really unfortunate. I know a lot of us love our dogs and would never do the thing that happened in China where people were throwing dogs out of their windows for fear of their lives. Those people, maybe they loved their dogs less than you, I don't know, but I mean, they probably did, but they still liked their dogs and they were still heartbroken to have to do it. Maybe they just saw them as disposable items, I don't know. It does turn out now that dogs can carry it, so I don't know. I don't know what the solution is to this. I care a lot about dogs. I consider them parts of the family, and I would treat it like any other family member that could be at risk. Like, that's how I would act. Obviously, the culture in different parts of the world is different. How do you like my my toned down, tepid sort of commentary I'm trying to do to seem sane and presenter friendly for mainstream platforms? Do you think it'll work? I mean, do you think I'll have 2 days or 3 days before they shut my whole fucking channel down and I just have to so far the last video I posted, I think I've gotten more videos on BitChute as of the time of recording this than I do on YouTube, so it's going well, but we'll see what it is eventually. Anyway, Yeah, so that, like, look, this is a guy that came here, came to Italy and was a super spreader. That has been confirmed. But look at what the Western, or the English speaking media, look at what they say the story is. The story is just that Paul Joseph Watson said patient zero, and it's not necessarily patient zero. And if you don't actually read this, if you don't read the fact that this was confirmed, you're just going to think like, oh, it's all made up. Well, no, it's just he's not confirmed as patient zero, right? And okay, this is another thing I wanted to bring up. I brought it up earlier. Made in Italy by Chinese workers. Now, by day, the 38-year-old father of four so trousers one of nearly 5,000 workshops run by Chinese immigrants in Prato. So this is 5,000 workshops. I was unable, I'm sure it's out there somewhere, to find out exactly how many of these workers are there. But if you look, this is a typical Chinese factory in Italy. Okay, and a lot of these people, they're bringing in, like I've said before, I didn't originate this saying. I found it on an online anonymous message board, but cheap labor is the most expensive thing in history. It costs you your civilization, right? And a lot of these people were coming back to work at these factories right after Chinese New Year. And I'm not saying these people are lesser than, or that there's anything wrong with these people, but this helped the spread of this disease. Like, these people came back carrying it, and instead of being contained in one area in a local community, they were brought to the West for cheap labor, and this put more people at risk, and now a lot of people are dead. In the country that employed all these people for cheap labor, how many people are dead now? Let's see. It's 2,978 people as of the time of this recording, at least. I apparently this map isn't super quick with this, are dead, okay, because of a health risk that was being taken here with the free movement of people and the market deciding capital and all this neoliberal capitalist bullshit that worries about goods and services more than the people who don't even see the people in a community as that. They just see them as consumers. They just see them as numbers, and they're like, oh, I guess there's 2,000 fewer consumers, so oh no, we'll have to shut down now. And it's, yeah, but at the time there was no incentive to that, and we can see how fragile the capitalist system really is. I mean, I hear all this bullshit, oh, it's the best system ever. Yeah, it's got problems like obesity and horrible waste and pollution and seeing people as fucking units on a paper. These people, I don't think they were done right by either. But by the way, this is not a thing anyone wants to be running with now. Now they're talking about like the 4 or 5 doctors China has sent over to Italy and the masks and relief efforts they've sent there. I think some billionaire contributed some stuff, and Reddit and social media are sucking their dicks, saying like, oh, we all need to come together during this crisis. And yeah, I don't think nations should be at each other's throats over this. I don't think like the tensions that are coming up between like Japan and Korea are productive, and I don't think like Italy should attack China or the Chinese government, but I think that you should re-examine the system you had in place, where you relied on things moving all over the world, where you relied on cheap labor in your own country instead of just paying your own citizens what they require, of worshipping the market instead of caring about people, right? Am I a bad guy for saying that? That seems to me like a very logical thing. And this is another thing I want to talk about, is just the level of trust that can exist. South Korea, at least, is a very capitalist country, but there are worker protections in place for workers. That's why, actually, if you buy a Korean product in Korea, it's more expensive than if you buy it in America. And part of that is just because they've got these protections on imported goods that local goods can charge a premium, and this does allow for more employment for the people there, despite Mr. Bong Joon-ho's, I really liked it, that movie Parasite. The social class problem in Korea isn't really as bad as in other countries, and even poor people in Korea can expect really good public health care, really good public services and infrastructure, and there is this sense of community with the people here that I'm not a part of, but they're all part of this thing. They've got a history, they've got a people. They don't see Korea or being Korean as just a number on a piece of paper, right? So let's look here. So and these girls, they've been sent out. This is the thing, like right out of being a nursing office, like right out of graduating as a nurse, they get sent out for this. Oh geez, I just realized I'm not wearing my headphones. Okay, like right out of getting sent out of this, they got sent to this, and let's look at some of the things they're saying. Patients come before me, said Lieutenant Kim Seol-ji. We part ways now, but we stand as one to carry out our mission, said fellow Lieutenant Shin Nam-mi at the graduation ceremony for the Armed Forces Nursing Academy in the central city of Daejeon on Tuesday. Attending by Defense Minister, blah, blah, blah. So, but these are the things I wanted to look at. I also saw one, I guess it's not in this article, or maybe it is. No, it's not. But it was basically someone saying, well, my grandmother, she fought in the Korean War, and this is our war. This is us fighting, you know. And I'm proud to put my life on the line for my country and for my people, right? And I wanted to contrast this with some of the comments I saw coming out of countries with maybe where people are more likely to bowl alone, right? So let's look here. All my nurse friends said they're quitting before they treat COVID patients. I wonder how many American nurses are going to quit when things get that bad in the States. I would want to help as much as I could, but I'm not optimistic that we can work and will be safe given how difficult a regular nursing day is. Given how difficult a regular nursing day is, my unit already is undersupplied on Friday nights with a lack of clean PPE or even laundry. If there is a lack of PPE and high patient ratios, you can expect a lot of nurses and medical staff to burn out or refuse to work. And you know, my sister is a nurse. She said she'll quit once it's confirmed to be in our state. She has a baby at home that was premature and has respiratory problems. It's definitely not something she wants to do, but she's not willing to risk it. One of my family members is a nurse. Haven't heard the same thought process in their hospital. They have no problem treating coronavirus patients, but they said that the hospital was more set up for Ebola than it currently is for this virus. There doesn't seem to be a clear protocol for the staff yet. I'm a nurse and I've heard a lot of people say it, including myself. In the US, our hospitals aren't giving us the proper personnel protective equipment. So let's see, I'm getting a call here. Let's see what it is. Oh, look, it's the I think this is just a, what you call it, it's, yeah, that's like I hope, because I'm blocking it, I hope that's this, I get so many telemarketer calls a day. I think a telemarketer group was like where one of these infections happened, and I'll tell you, I'm not celebrating it, but with all the fucking spam calls I get a day and have to block, I have a sort of limited sympathy. Oh, and by the way, the pop-up in my last video that I said was about coronavirus, it actually isn't. I looked at the translation. It's about the Korean Herald is looking for editors. So if you are an English speaker in Korea and you think you'd be qualified, maybe apply. I don't know, but just there was more of a throwaway line anyway. But I just felt I should put in a correction here. Anyway, you're like 50 minutes into this long video. I've heard a nurse and a lot of people say, including myself, I definitely wouldn't blame anyone for wanting to quit. We're not given the right safety equipment and protocol. Behind the 100% nurses are already overworked. This really is inexcusable. I'm here in the US too. We are ridiculously underprepared and not acting fast enough. You should write that essay, educate the people. Now, yeah, okay, I just mentioned the sort of lack of social trust, but yeah, there's also a problem of preparedness. There's a problem of social health care in a big, diverse nation like America. And this all goes down to it. Like in Korea, people are more willing to have things like social health care. Because of this general feeling of sympathy with each other, you know? And we don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, but at least for now, that's part of why things have been going, a lot better with regard to preparedness. I mean, there've been I think I've said that before, there've been no shortages here for anything besides masks, and with that, the government took an active interest. So we've got some more here. Nurses are heroes. They put up with so much grief and get paid so little. And then she's saying here that in the UK, nurses are underpaid, which I believe is true. And the UK's solution to this, it seems, is once again employing medical staff from third world countries that need their own medical staff, who are maybe going to have less sympathy. I mean, we have studies to show that when you're not the same as the people you're giving care to with regard to certain indicators, to social indicators, you show less sympathy. So it's people who their own country needs medical staff and medical practitioners. This is used to keep the overall pay low, because the more supply you have of workers, the lower you can pay them, even in a government system. And then you end up with people who maybe have less sympathy. You have cultural differences, and you have ex-nurse here. Our nurses have to be on food banks. I want to respond to this guy's comment saying nurses get paid really well, but has since retracted his comment. People in the United States are paid relatively well compared to other professions, but Korean nurses do not get paid pretty well. So you can see here the willingness of the Korean workers to work is not because they get paid really well. It's because of a sense of duty, and it's a sense of being part of something. Okay, now let's move on to some reactions in South Africa. It seems like I should note here that I think this is a public group. This is a public page. Any comments here are public. This is not doxing. And also any comments here that show any hatred towards any group are not being endorsed here. They're being used to educate people on whether or not people are doing this, and to also show the general attitude. And this is really concerning here. Do you agree? Give him a mic. Microphone, strong arm, hashtag COVID-19. And he says here, the white people bring coronavirus in SA. The blacks are quiet. If it was brought by Nigerians, Congolese or Zimbabweans, the townships would be burning now with xenophobia. So I want to unpack what he's looking at as a problem here. Is he's not saying, that we shouldn't attack African people. It seems that he is implying that white people should be attacked. Right? I mean, he's not directly saying that, and I can't prove that's what he meant, but it's what I'm getting from it, and what I'm guessing a lot of people are going to get from it. Let's look at some things here. And to be fair, there's a lot of people in the group saying, like, listen, we don't need that during this crisis. They're still killing innocent truck drivers who move goods across their country and damaging roads, closing roads unnecessary. They want service delivery, which is brought by roads and trucks. And that is a problem in South Africa. When there's a problem with service delivery, there's the reaction is burning stuff down. Oh, I don't like public infrastructure enough. I'm going to burn down some public infrastructure. That's a real concern. Self-hate was taught and enforced by many years in South Africa. It is not foreigners who are the victim. Black businesses are the perfect examples of how we hate ourselves. We rarely buy expensive goods from Chinese and Indians than support our own. Okay, but, everything I see from the South African government is about, like, well, what's good for black people? How do we put black people first? And they assume very much of the time, like, they take open racial interest, and this is seen as taboo among white people, even punishable by law among white people. I don't really like to hear Nigerians, Tanzanians in this area, while our goal here is United States of Africa. So you're saying, well, all Africans need to be seen as one, and I'm not worried about African borders. I have racial solidarity. This person here, Sif Sout, is saying he has racial solidarity with all his African brothers and sisters, which once again, that's an idea that is completely taboo. If maybe saying something like this, or would eventually get a group banned or something if it was said about United States of Europe. I mean, maybe not. Maybe if you weren't explicitly racial, he's not saying black, but a lot of these things are explicitly black. This person is saying, well, we shouldn't hate the Europeans, we should hate the Chinese. I don't think you should hate anybody during this time. I don't think it helps. I think be careful. Anyone could have it at this point. Anyway, so who exported HIV to the world? So here we go. Be careful who exported HIV to the world. This is Kelly Hupt, and he's saying, well, don't people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. But the problem is a lot of these people are going to tell HIV is a conspiracy theory by some shadowy government to try to wipe out black people or something. Like, a lot of them are going to say that as well. So it's just, once again, this is a problem when people aren't unified, and when there's such a difference in how we react to stuff, and we can turn it against each other so much quicker. All right, so this is Steve Hofmeyer's result. This is his reaction to President Cyril Ramaphosa made a speech and was very tepid. It was very similar to Trump's speech, which was like, oh, we're doing all we can, blah, blah, blah. I think the difference is Trump said people of over 10 groups shouldn't be getting together, and Cyril Ramaphosa was like people over 100 groups. And he was saying like, oh, you should self-isolate. But I mean, that's so much less available in South Africa, where people live in shacks, people are immune compromised, people take not only borderline illegal but pretty much gangster run public services like the taxi thing, where these minibus vans are just crowded full of people, way over capacity, and people are all breathing the same air, and it's just, I'm so worried about my family and stuff coming into winter. What's going to happen there? I don't know, because apparently viruses like to spread less in winter. We're all holding out hope for that. We're going to talk about that later. But anyway, seriously, Steve, it's global, not provincial or national. Take a pill and chill, bro. You must not make a commotion over nothing. Now, this is three days ago, and it already seems outdated. But anyway, he's saying. So this guy's saying a thing which I've sort of echoed as well, but it's also Ignatius de Wet is saying now it's a national disaster. That 61 people are dead, but 57 people. I don't know where he gets 61 people dead in South Africa, because way more than that are dead local. No. So I don't know what. I guess this is like a few weeks ago where it was only 61 people in a certain region or something. I don't know. Or maybe he's talking about how many people are dead in America. This thing is even out of date. So it's 153. So maybe it was 61 like 3 days ago. I don't know. But anyway, but he's pointing out correctly that 57 people are murdered every day in South Africa. And yes, that's true. And that's something I've even said, because we're told not to worry as much about murders or the interracial murders, which are not being released. Interracial murders numbers aren't being released. We can only hypothesize what those are, and I agree that that is a big deal. But I think that should just be treated as more of a big deal, much like a charitable interpretation of this guy's thing is like, well, don't attack Africans. For it here is like, well, take murder more seriously. Don't not take this seriously, and also don't attack European peoples, right? So that would be the sane reaction, but people don't really get super sane during stuff like this. If there is people out there struggling through this time when they aren't allowed, this guy is saying, I'm not sure what he means. He's like saying that they can make any money. Please don't hesitate to give me a call. I need help with the harvest. Okay, so he's saying you can come and work for me during this crisis. And it doesn't seem to be a racial call either, so you can't get in trouble for that. Though I don't see anything wrong with that sort of solidarity among peoples. He's sort of saying, well, come give me a call, I need help with the harvest. Willem Petzer, who has done a lot of good work spreading the news of the problems in South Africa. If you don't follow him, I think you should. I will critique him a little, saying I think he cares too much about an idea of respectability that people will never give him. He's openly said that what's happening in South Africa doesn't fill the requirements of what a genocide is, and when I asked him why, he said, there's no camps. And I mean, camps don't have anything to do with it, Willem, but in general, you do a really good job. And can anyone tell me what the motivation for the people from Mamelodi to throw rocks at people, empty beer bottles at cars passing by? I just had to dodge a beer bottle. So this is another example of the sort of things that happen in South Africa when things are breaking down like this. You have riots. You have people throwing beer bottles, and contrast this to what's happening in South Korea, right? Anyway, Stephen Hofmeyr, he's also, one thing to note here, Steve Hofmeyr, in case you don't know him, he's like a political speaker, but he's most famous, at least in South Africa. I guess now it's for being a quote-unquote racist, even though he's like a normie libertarian who believes in like freedom for all races or whatever. And he's also a pop star, and I think he was upset about saying that these gatherings need to be cancelled because a lot of his pop venues are going to have to be cancelled. I think at the time, a lot of right-wing people seem to be changing their tune, but it was like, oh, who cares, well, whatever. So anyway, where Nature explains its views on globalization, the byproduct of open borders, coronavirus. Yeah, I mean, look, it's I'm with him here. It's if you globalize your supply chain, you're at global risk. You might have global return on profits, but you're also at global risk. If you allow just free movement of people all the time, you allow the free movement of any pathogens those people might have, right? And he's saying if you're suggesting that open borders are the cause of the coronavirus, you are wrong, which is true. They are not the cause of it. The cause of it is officially eating tainted bats, which I guess evolved naturally. Wuhan is like an epicenter of research. There, of course, were those things from the Dean Koontz novel from like 30 years ago, or 40 years ago, whatever, where they had the Wuhan flu that started in Wuhan. The symptoms of the flu are way different from the coronavirus, but it was actually in that novel that like this global pandemic thing came out of Wuhan. And Wuhan is a center of medical production and medical research. And I don't know, I like to joke, sort of half joke, that somebody was trying to genetically engineer airborne AIDS in a bat, and then the bat was stolen and sold at market and eaten in a soup. I don't really think that's what happened. Like, me as a layman, as a person who doesn't know anything about medicine, I just think that maybe the sort of bacterial ecosystem that exists in a place where people are doing all this medical research, and also there's all these fresh food markets with sort of animals that maybe aren't a good idea to eat, like bats, which have the way the bats like immune system works. Apparently, it's easier for viruses to jump from that to humans, or just in between species, and it just seems like the whole thing in there. There's a sort of cultural and logistical thing that led to this happening in that area, rather than it being this like conspiracy by China to take over the global economy. Although, I mean, you can backpedal it as that, but I see no reason to assume that, right? But anyway, I think China is only one of the few places that's had like a slight increase in their trading index or whatever on the Dow Jones, where everyone else is fucking tanking. This is like new depression bullshit. People I know are out of work. People I know do freelance stuff are finding a hard time getting work. I myself have had to go a month without pay, and I just hope my place doesn't shut down or that no one there gets sick. But anyway, if you are supporting that open border, I really wish that I had spent more time on this and tried to make it a way of getting paid despite all the shutdowns. And if I survive this, I know a lot of the promises I made about making content when I get out and help. I tried to help some white South Africans get out. None of those plans worked. But I am gonna, I've resolved I can't live the rest of my life like this. And I hope that you guys can help share this video. I had to go like, comment, subscribe, share. But please, share this video. Any videos that are on my BitChute, I have no problem with you downloading those and posting them in other places if you feel they won't get flagged. Anything we can do to help, because this is what I want to do. Both this, and I've also put up some new artist page. If you Cultural Reconquista posted my artist page on it along with other right-wing artists. I don't really consider myself right-wing, or left-wing or anything like that. I have spoken before about being in the right and right-wing ideas just because it seemed like I was vibrating more with that. But, the more you look at it, the right has a lot of... the right, the left, it's a lot of the same bullshit, isn't it? But anyway, let's get back to this. If you're suggesting that open borders are the cause of the coronavirus, you're wrong. If you're suggesting rapid spread of the virus can be ascribed to open borders, then you are most likely correct. Yeah, well, Jean Marais, you are correct, sir. That is a, pragmatist introvert. I want to become more of an introvert. I'm definitely going to, trying to move to teaching online. It was me worrying about moving and my own finances, and it was stuff I probably shouldn't have worried about. Let's see how the Eastern European country I wanted to move to deals with this. It seems like they're dealing with it pretty well. One of the things is shutting the borders, though, so I can't go now. And no one was expecting this, but I think one of the lessons I've taken is live every day the way you want to live to that day, and don't put things off, and just become who you are. Just don't just chase money all the time. And I won't be doing that going forward. I won't be letting money be the same sort of consideration. If I have enough, I can make enough. That's going to be the important thing, you know. I had this idea of, the more money I had, the more I can help people. And if I save up enough money here, I can have like a safe house in this Eastern European country where more people can come visit and even help get out of South Africa and this and this and this. And it's like, you know, and also for my own selfish reasons, you know. I can't just pretend it was all selfless. I wanted a nice big place. I wanted to have a lot of money to, you know, as a cushion, you know. And I'm getting older. That's the thing. I'm sure a lot of us are worried about money right now, but I think you'll find in the coming weeks and months, and hopefully not years, you know, but there will be other crises, there will be other things. So I think you will see that the important things are your friends and your family, and you know, and doing what you love and being true to yourself. You know, you should probably never get on a plane again. Those fly over borders and transport people globally. Oh, fuck off. Fuck off, Mandy Mercer. Oh, never get on a plane again. Okay, or maybe just have more protections in place for stuff like this. You know? I don't know. Like, it's so fucking stupid, you know, just like you don't have to say all borders have to literally be dissolved to be a proponent of open borders, just like you don't have to literally say, like, everyone must stay within their borders at all time to be a proponent of strict borders or controlled borders, okay? I would like to think that this current virus shows the problem of having this global worldview with regard to there being no such thing as borders and a global economy and this and this and this. It shows how fragile that system really is. And that isn't to say I think everyone needs to be hermetically sealed. We need to be at each other's throats, bro. I mean, but that's like the straw man that's built up for that, right? Okay, anyway, let's look here. Blah, blah, blah. So here, I bet the coronavirus is already worldwide, but quarantined, watch this space. I don't know what that means. Steve, we've got a quarantine on planet Earth. We're not going to send it to the International Space Station. I guess he just means there's quarantines worldwide. As far as I know, there's still countries that don't have it or haven't had tested cases. A lot of the disparity with numbers is due to testing, you know. It might even be the numbers in Korea are only so high because of the testing. It could also be that even our numbers are too low because we're only testing at-risk people. You know, but you can't test literally everyone. There's not enough testing kits, and you can't give everyone, and like if people, like more people are going to die from this, it's from lack of hospital space, lack of breathing machines, you know. And I know as of now they've started human trials on a vaccine. These things take a long time, guys. Don't expect anything like that soon. You know, I'm not expecting anything like that soon. I'm scared shitless of this. You know, okay, whatever. Let's keep going. And here we go. Here's somebody saying, hold on, let me see if I can zoom in. Not enough faith in our nation. The coronavirus is a Democrat hoax. Okay, so this is an American comment. I got this off Reddit, so I guess it censors. Not enough faith in our nation. The coronavirus is a Democrat hoax. Democrat hoax with faith in great country and our president. God will protect us. Yeah, like he protected all those people at the Jesus' Church of Tabernacle, Trinity and Choir, Toast, tremendous church gospel of the word, spoken word of Jesus, Lazarus of Nazareth. I don't know. You know, just like them, it protected them, right? Oh, well, I guess he wasn't. I mean, to be fair, even before this shit happened, people were like, well, they're not real Christians, they're insane, but they're a huge, huge thing here in Korea. They're giant. Anyway, with faith in our country and our president, God will protect us. Wash your hands, and most importantly, pray. Calling all prayer warriors. I have some very difficult news. I'm being presumed positive for coronavirus. The doctors want to keep me in hospital because of my oxygen status, and I will need to be in quarantine when I'm sent home. I'm holding up well, all things considered. We all know this was serious and that this could happen. Please keep myself, my husband, and your prayers during this trial. So yeah, maybe that wasn't such a good idea. Maybe, I don't know. You know, that's one fewer person that could have taken more precautions that doesn't get that breathing machine. So yeah, here's a based black man in a oh god, can I even call him a based black guy in a cowboy hat? Because that's like why he's famous. He's a based black guy in a cowboy hat. That's not me disparaging a race. That's not me attacking this man because of his race. That's me attacking a media empire that sells this to Republicans so that they don't get called racist. But anyway, you will soon see that this bullshit, it knows no racial boundaries, with people saying stupid shit and doing stupid shit, right? It's maybe different with different people in different cultures, but everyone's being stupid. Here in Korea, with like an average IQ of like 110 or whatever, everyone is, well, not everyone's being stupid, but there are stupid people doing stupid stuff. In general, maybe people are doing better, but people are doing stupid stuff here. People panic. People believe in crazy, stupid shit. And this guy believes that, like, his comfortable, capitalist, consumerist existence, nothing's gonna happen. He's like, go into the streets, folks. Visit bars, restaurants, shopping malls, churches in big, like churches. So you can definitely get it. And demand that your schools reopen now. Your schools reopen now. Like, how hard can I hit this desk without sounding really bad? Reopen now. There, okay. If government doesn't stop this foolishness, stay in the streets, end government control over our lives. If not now, when? This is an exploitation of a crisis. Oh my god. This is so stupid. This is such a bad idea. Like, I'm not a medical professional, but to show this to any medical professional and watch them freak the fuck out. This is so bad. Even if everyone's gonna get it, you want to slow it down so that people who get it can be dealt with better if they need breathing machines, if they need special care, right? And so that that whatever, you know, I see that some antivirals that are being used for certain strains of flu or antiretrovirals being used for HIV can be helpful among this, so that you stop shortages, right, in your supply chain, in your lovely global supply chain that got you that cheap cowboy hat that God knows if it was even made in America, right? Maybe the hat band was put on in America and it got a Made in America sticker. Okay, here's Katie Hopkins, who is, look, is it a personal attack if I say Katie Hopkins is a front runner for worst person? Can I do that? She is so she's so terrible saying this here. This is a terrible thing to say. And she is just such a cringe commentator. I don't know. This is a problem with these restrictions on YouTube. That's even why I made that video during this outbreak about this, because it's hampering my effect to say this person here saying take your kids to get infected by this on purpose is saying a bad thing. Don't take your kids to get infected on purpose, okay? It's not a good idea. Anyway, Katie Hopkins says, breaking news for the youth. As mums, we had chickenpox parties for young kids so that one toddler with chickenpox might give it to others in order to build their immunity and get it over with. Trust in your strength. Hashtag coronavirus. Yeah, you did. And now guess what? A lot of people get shingles and stuff because we didn't know the effects of chickenpox back then, and we don't know the future effects of coronavirus. There are people with permanent lung or testicular damage because of this, okay? Your kids die of this. Kids are less at risk, but kids still die. Kids put your elderly parents at risk. I know the UK, Boris Johnson, his plan, like a lot of European countries, seems to be herd immunity. You don't know what the fuck that means. Herd immunity means a shitload of people are going to die. Okay, and okay, I don't want to cause you guys panic in Europe. You know, stay strong, be as healthy as you can, take the precautions you can, take advantage of whatever time off you can get in your government. Try to help your community when possible, but it's like this herd immunity thing is such a bad idea. Right now, I believe Europe's on lockdown, so I guess they're not just doing herd immunity, because herd immunity would be like, well, let's just spread it all now and see what happens. So I guess they're still taking some precautions. It's not Katie Hopkins' plan here of just having young kids get together and it spread it among themselves like the chicken pox. Such a bad, holy shit, that is such a bad fucking idea, Katie. Okay, and now on to some South African reactions, and this is exactly what we can expect in the Rainbow Nation. South African warned about door-to-door coronavirus test scam. Okay, I don't know what this picture is of. I think it's just I don't know if these are people holding in the scam or what, or got caught with the scam on security footage. This or if it's like stock image from something else. But the guys show up at your door dressed more or less like this, and they say, "Oh, well, we'll hear from the government. will here to test if you have coronavirus, and then they rob you. A social media message about a robbery in Cape Town has caused panic among residents in Durban. The message has gone viral. KwaZulu-Natal police say they have not received any reports or robberies using the modus operandi yet. That means just for the non-Latin speakers, or I don't know if that's Greek or what, that you know what modus operandi means. You saw it on CSI. It means this method, this MO. That's actually when they say MO, you might not know that, it's modus operandi. Netcare has been made aware that the criminals are going to homes in various areas, claiming to be from Netcare or Netcare 911, and saying that they are assisting the Department of Health with door-to-door screening for COVID-19 coronavirus. Okay. Blah blah blah. The National Communicable Diseases has said this makes me feel less bad about my own spelling errors. Has said that while there is an increase in COVID-19 positive cases in South Africa, there is currently no evidence to suggest that COVID-19 is circulating in South Africa's population. This is maybe an older article. Oh no, this is just from 2 days ago, but it is like people are getting it. The spread is going very quickly in South Africa. So, hey, maybe I'm lucky to have gotten out, even with all this stuff happening here, even with having to deal with kids pretty soon, even with my job being on the line. Maybe I'm lucky to have gotten out, and for some reason this doesn't seem to be loading. So, South Africa's first local transmission cases include 4 children under 5. So, this just shows like children are supposed to be less susceptible to this, but they're immune compromised in South Africa. The boy's a 5-year-old. Well, this kid is a white kid, at least in this picture. So yeah, this is a 9-month-old with coronavirus. I don't know if this is a South African.
Went in, doctor came in with the mask and everything, did some basic checks, so temperature, checked
That sounds like an Australian, so I guess this is...
I was like, yeah.
An Australian or a British person.
How do you...
So yeah, this little kid has it. So this is not the kids that I guess have it in South Africa. The boy is a 5-year-old. 2 aged 3 and 2-year-old have never travelled abroad, the country's health ministry said. So this is proof that, contrary to what the last thing said, it is spreading among the population. On Sunday, President Cyril Ramaphosa declared a state of disaster and imposed a travel ban on foreign nationals from 8 high-risk countries, including the UK, blah, 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 all these places, including where I am. Hey. But, I support this. I support these borders being closed. I understand it. I just hope that the ability for me to once this lowers, I hope the visa programs and stuff I had available before this outbreak are still available once it ends. I'm just really worried about the future. I can't keep being basically an after school worker here. I was going to say a slave, but I just feel like I'm working so hard here. I know other people work harder. I've got it relatively good, but part of the reason why I've had trouble putting stuff out is I've just been exhausted from this. I don't know what it's going to be like once school starts again, so you might have to deal with another break in content from me, sorry to say. I don't know, but okay, announcing the latest coronavirus infection on Tuesday, the health minister said the number of people who have been tested positive for COVID-19 have raised from 85 to 62 the day before. What? Have risen from 285 from 62. I really struggle with numbers. Maybe it's like I'm just relying on everyone here to do numbers stuff for me. Africa should prepare for the worst with the virus, the World Health Organization says. Things are going to get bad, dude. Things are going to get really bad in Africa. It's weird they haven't gotten this bad earlier. And it's also getting bad there where it's fall now and things are getting a bit colder. So... But I'm really fucking hoping that the whole, when it gets warmer, things will get better thing is true. That would be really nice. Okay. The terrifying coronavirus prediction that pushed Israel to take unprecedented steps. By this model, the worst case estimates for the coronavirus epidemic spread could cause the healthcare system to collapse entirely. So this is the thing with Israel. Took some of the earliest and most pronounced steps, banning all flight, even though they had very few cases, and really looking at their people as a people. Israel is, of course, very controversial for it. It is an ethno-state. People pretend it's not. I don't know how you can, when they were even talking about doing genetic tests. They didn't do it, but for Jews entering, I have a Jewish friend who I guess we're more of an acquaintance now, sadly, but she it was very Jewish. She's very culturally Jewish. She has blonde hair and blue eyes, but she has very Jewish features, and she's I think basically Orthodox, I think, or something close to it, maybe Reformed, but she's very, very explicitly Jewish, both to me it seems ethnically and culturally, and she couldn't get into Israel because she wasn't Jewish enough. I don't know if that's changed since marrying a Jewish guy and having like Jewish kids, if this could be like together they could move there, but at the time she was looking into this, she didn't qualify for right of return because she wasn't Jewish enough. So Israel is a very ethnically, it's putting ethnicity as a very important thing, and here we can see them also taking their people as an important thing in themselves, worrying about their people as a people rather than as an economic unit, which is something that even a place like Korea has been doing a lot of. They don't close the borders because they worry about the economy, right? So here we go. Everyone at and this I thought was sort of ghoulish to take too much pleasure in this, but I thought it was revealing. Everyone at CPAC Shabbos dinner should be checked. The attendee was there. So Mr. Rahim Kassam was at the CPAC Shabbos dinner for if you don't know what a Shabbos is, a Shabbos goy is somebody who like an Orthodox Jewish person or somebody that observes the Shabbat and they can't turn on lights or do certain things. They will say like vague stuff like, oh, it would be nice if the lights were on. Oh, it would be great to have some hot tea or something. And the Shabbos goy does it for them so that they technically don't break the rules of their own religion, because I guess their God is an idiot and he doesn't get what's happening. It's like, your God should pick up that you'll try to like pull one over on him, right? You're still doing it, but whatever. They've also got like kosher friendly things where it's like technically you're not putting on your stove. It's like you're releasing the thing that stops the stove from always turning itself on, that allows it to turn itself on. It's like very, very, very Talmudic in the literal sense of the word. It's like splitting hairs. But anyway, if you didn't know, that's where Shabbos goy comes from, and that's why Shabbos dinner is for good Shabbos goys, I guess. Can I say that, YouTube? That's literally what it is. I don't know if I can say something, even if it's just what the thing is. Okay? It shouldn't be offensive. It's not grouping people as anything. It's not saying everyone is like a certain way. It's literally a thing people do. Okay? Okay, anyway, I've now spoken to a number of people who are in and around the green room at CPAC when the attendee with coronavirus was there. People are apoplectic about how they have been better informed or what happened. The attendee was there for much of Thursday at least. The reason I'm tweeting this, I've been flu sick, unwell for the past week, and now I am finding out there are people I was in direct contact with who were in direct contact with the infected, and yes, I know who it was. Okay, so he's like... So anyway, let's see what some people say. Oh, these are all Rahim Kassam. Some other information circulating. There are actually 2 people at the CPAC infected. I also heard, I don't know how true that is, and I don't know if someone's going to say that on here, but like that the Israeli attendees were treated like they were shipped out right away, and they were like escorted out very quickly for like their own protection, and everyone else just sort of got a message or like, yeah, everyone, please shuffle in an orderly line and just sort of march like good cattle on out of here, like that's what I heard. I don't know how true that is. If we look at how Israel is handling this whole thing, and we know there's lots of Israeli attendees to APAC and CPAC, it seems like a story that could be likely. Anyway, let's look here. CPAC and APAC conferences. The tens of thousands of devotees who attended last week's American-Israeli Public Affairs Committee Policy Conference and the Conservative Political Action Conference at the end of February have all gone back home, bringing with them new ideas about U.S.-Israeli relations. Jesus, how long is this? And they'll basically are talking about the same thing. Here's Rahim Kassam, by the way. They're also about people who may have been around the green rooms, the basic list of CPAC speakers who were around in that area, and here's a list of people. And they're naming names. So anyway, with being detected as a containment zone in New York. You might not know this, but a big part of the anti-vax community, although vaccines wouldn't do anything about it, but a large part of that are Hasidic Jews, that even though it's official that they are kosher to get these vaccines, they don't. So there's already a problem with sort of old extinct viruses coming about in these communities in places like New York State. And it seems that some parts of New York City, I believe, are very... You've got places like Curious Joel, I think that's in New York State, not in the city. And so these people already had problems with immunity and other medical problems. And as you know, this thing is more deadly if you've got other working pathologies or if you're sick with something else, apparently. So not good, not good. And here, I don't know what the point of this. This is from the forward. The guidance that the health professionals continue to be all conference participants should follow CDC guidelines and control healthcare. APAC officials declined to answer questions about its process of notifying attendees whether they came in contact with infected people, except to say that they have been in close contact and consultation with federal and local public health authorities and are following their guidelines. So yeah, that was a rumor I heard from people that, sort of through the grapevine of people going there. So I don't know how true that is. APAC not wanting to talk about it definitely doesn't help. I don't know what the evidence is say that there was no risk to conference attendees. He said in an interview, it didn't sound like there was no risk. It sounded like there was some risk. So as an epidemiologist, professor of biology, so he says there was a risk. Some people were told there was no risk. There was a risk. Despite APAC's reassurances, some attendees took extra precaution. A Canadian politician, Anthony Housefather, self-quarantined in Montreal after attending APAC. Okay, so yeah. Anyway, coronavirus is contagious, but never so much as the world's oldest hatred, anti-Semitism. So just remember what Heidi Bakran said here, and to not be anti-Semitic. Don't worry about this global pandemic. Worry about something far more important, anti-Semitism. Much like the APAC and CPAC conferences, it seems, were. Okay, and now there's a real thing, guys. I know I've been joking about I don't like the sort of global capitalist, finance capitalist bullshit. I don't like it. Actually, nothing could be further from the truth. I'm a good guy. And I love consuming product and getting excited for next product. It's my favorite fucking thing. And right now, the main thing I can see here is coronavirus could affect sales of Crocs, Nike, Victoria's Secret, and others. And I know you're freaking out, especially boomers who are already at risk for this. And now you might not even be able to get new Crocs to wear with socks as you go out in public. It's a really scary time. You might even have to wear sandals or normal shoes while you mow your lawn or something. That's just a bit of joking. That's not me attacking people based on age. Okay, as of Tuesday, more than 5,900 Americans have tested positive, but the real problem is products. It's the real scary thing. Okay, and I thought, wait, where's this? Okay, here's the thing I wanted to show. Will coronavirus vaccine... Wait, no, that's not the one I want to look at. Where's the one with the... Oh, this isn't that. This is... I was looking at that. This isn't this article. That was just the thing there. This is what I wanted to look at. Coronavirus, does warm weather slow the spread of the virus? Question mark. Maybe. And I'm really hoping it does. But I don't know. Some people say, well, it's not the warm weather itself that slows it. It's how people interact. I've seen some people say, no, the actual humidity in the air. This changes how much of the viral load can survive in the air once the moisture particle it was in dries up, and this actually does change people being able to get it or not. So I don't know, but yeah, let's hope. Anyway, when will coronavirus vaccine be ready? Human trials will begin immediately. Sorry, no, that's not what I wanted to look at. I wanted to look at this. Bettridge's law of headlines. So over here, does warm weather slow the spread of the coronavirus? And Bettridge's law of headlines is an adage that states any headline that ends in a question mark can be directly answered by the word no. So, not looking good. Not looking good. When will coronavirus vaccine be ready? Human trials will begin imminently, but even if they will go well, there are many barriers before global immunization is feasible. So here we go. Even at the most effective and draconian containment strategies have only slowed the spread of the respiratory disease COVID-19, with World Health Organizations finally declaring a pandemic. All eyes have turned to the prospect of a vaccine because only a vaccine can prevent people from getting sick. And I mean, let's see what they say at the very end here. There are tests for coronavirus vaccine. I guess this is one of our few hopes and just containment. I know that the vaccines they were developing for SARS and stuff, they never really got into effect because it was just contained. This like the hopes of containing this thing are just gone. So anyway, outside of pandemics, the World Health Organization brings governments, charitable foundations, and vaccine makers together to agree on an equitable global distribution strategy. The question is whether this will happen in a situation where you've got normal emergencies going on. There is being debated, but it will be a while before we see how it plays out. The pandemic, says Wilder Smith, will probably have peaked and declined before a vaccine is available. A vaccine could save many lives, especially if the virus becomes epidemic or perennially circulating, like flu, which I don't see why that wouldn't happen now that it wasn't really contained. I mean, some people say you can still contain it. Like, I guess maybe that's what Steve Hofmeyr was trying to cope with like, oh, well, it's under quarantine, but it's global, but it's under quarantine. It's like holding out hope. This is going to be really bad. But anyway, here we go. So let's keep going. Okay, so even though, like, you'd think this would be a pretty stark disproof of sort of globalist ideas, right? Like the free movement of people, global supply chains. Right away, we can see the problems with this. We can see how people, even in countries that are all about diversity and inclusion, they're more likely to turn on each other. Countries, whether they're capitalist or like, Israel is, which is, I don't know, like Israeli fascist, ethno-nationalist, whatever, I don't know. They also, I feel, they go beyond that. I don't think things that like the Israeli government does to Palestine can be justified. But anyway, regardless of whether it's like Israel that closed up its borders right away or South Korea that still has a pretty open market and an open system of travel, but they still, have a sort of unified idea as a group, as a people. This really changes their reaction to it. And coronavirus, why you must act now. So this is Steven Pinker saying coronavirus, why you must act now. And he's talking about, social distancing. His only result is social distancing. But if you see here, and I think this is an earlier tweet, because this one's March 12th, an earlier tweet by Mr. Pinker said the coronavirus pandemic is one of many reasons neo-nationalism is destructive and ultimately futile. Viruses like greenhouse gases, cyber criminals, dark money, terrorists, pirates, and technology don't care about lines on a map. Okay, you can say that. You can say that, but people care about lines on the map, and viruses travel with people, right? So they don't care about lines on the map. Viruses need carriers. So here, Max Movko immediately sort of dispels this. Viruses need carriers, are stopped by borders. That is all. Well, of course, if your border is not just a line on a map, literally the most effective way to fight epidemics is quarantine. Okay? You look here. Ultimately, futile viruses like greenhouse gases, cyber criminals, dark money, terrorists, pirates, and technology don't care about lines on a map. I thought maybe there was more to it. We can look at this opinion. If it's not behind a paywall, it's going to be behind a paywall because it's the New York Times. And I don't feel like trying to circumvent the paywall. Let's stop. Nope, didn't work. Try to stop there. Let's see. Okay. Back in 2002, when the SARS virus made a fateful blah, 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 New York Times things, I guess they feel they need a paywall because this is like a little novel, everything here. Okay, so this isn't exactly... Is this even by Steven Pinker? I think it's just a thing he posted because he's like, this is notes by the editorial board. This is how we can not draw the obvious conclusions about our own current global system and instead have sort of vague, nebulous things about we need to have more global welfare, even as like maybe our own nations will suffer. And also use the term neo-nationalism, which is just to make it sound more like you're saying neo-Nazi. Come on, dude. You know what you're doing. Why not just say nationalism? Because you want to make it sound spooky. Okay, anyway, back in 2002, when the SARS virus made... Oh, wait, no, this is what we're just reading. Sorry. Okay. And here's another guy. They're really shilling super hard for this to like remain open borders and stuff. We might actually look at some other stuff I don't have pulled up here, but we might actually quickly open it. Ian Brenner, founder of the Risk Consultancy Eurasia Group, says populism, nationalism, and distrust are feeding the spread of disease. And Reddit, which is usually very, not like this, there's an extract where he's saying like, oh well, this is hurting things, and he sort of weirdly says like, not wanting to give help abroad hurts help in your own country, which doesn't make sense. I guess it could be like a quid pro quo thing. That's like the thing China is saying now. It's not saying, oh well, we're helping out Italy because we don't want our exports to hurt and we don't want our factories in Italy to suffer. They're like, oh, you helped us out with the previous earthquake, so now we're paying you back, Italy, and everyone's going crazy over that. They're not looking at how maybe having people from an area that was heavily infected, I think the second highest infected after Wuhan in China, having whole towns where the population doing cheap labor. No one wants to look at that. So anyway, what an idiot he is. Everybody has an ism they can blame for the virus. So yeah, I mean, that's sort of the same. Maybe you could say I'm doing that here, but is anything particular... Okay, and here this guy's saying, is anything particularly wrong with putting your country first? Okay, we'll just quickly think. I said, maybe I'm doing that with ism. Everyone has an ism to blame. And my blame here is globalism. It's global capitalism. It's finance capitalism. It's the global economy. But this just shows the fragility of these things. These things didn't, I don't think they caused this, but they did cause the spread of this. And it shows how poorly equipped the system is to deal with something like this. I guess like the idea is to bolster the system and show it can go through something like this, and to just double down on the narrative of like global community, globe together, globe this and this and this, as well as like saying, oh, well, stay away from everyone, don't interact with anyone, right? But anyway, no inherent... So he says here, is there anything wrong with putting your country first? Someone else says, well, sometimes, when it is fine, your country has a problem that others have and you want to help your country fix the problem instead of allocating resources to other countries. When it isn't fine, you find your national... I guess maybe you define your national interests as things that make other countries worse off, e.g. your increases in air pollution to accelerate climate change because warming will benefit your country while making other countries weaker. Now, I don't know if anyone does that. Some people might like not care about it because they're like, well, my economy of my country is more important. Maybe it's like that. I don't know. But I don't think anyone is like actively doing that to cause climate change to hurt other countries. Maybe, hey, there's some really malevolent people in positions of power, I guess. But I don't know. I like to think it's the selfishness isn't that sort of Bond villainy, but I could be wrong. Not inherently, but about the bully jerk in school who only thinks of themselves, and the cool popular kid who is friendly with most of their classmates. This friendly kid may in fact think about themselves as much as the bully, but no one wants to be friendly with the bully. Everyone wants to hang around the cool popular kid and coof on him and touch him and high-five him and not retain social distance. And that cool kid is fucked. That cool kid is fucked. What's he gonna do? Okay, anyway, this guy here, I think I've read that, so what an idiot he is, blah blah blah. Okay, and here we are living in a moment of passive-aggressive general warfare. Boomers are voting in ways that would steal the future from young people, and many young people are shrugging off the virus in ways that risk stealing the future from boomers. And this guy's like, I don't vote, I'm a boomer, I'm voting for stealing anyone's freedom or future or whatever, I'm voting to save our democracy. And like, okay, whatever, dude. But, it's sort of like when younger generations were like, well, we need more pronounced healthcare. And they're like, wow, screw you, I got mine. And now it's like, maybe you shouldn't be out partying because we can get sick. And it's like, well, screw you, I've only got a 0.05% death rate in my age group, Once again, I don't think this hatred based on generation is helpful. I do know that it doesn't seem to be a thing here in Korea. They just seem to be worried about older generations. That's it. They're not angry at them, probably because they inherited a coherent, functioning society from them. I don't know. Okay, yeah, and if you look here, this is one of the ways they're trying to sell the sort of, like, they're doubling down on the sort of global, we're all one sort of thing. To those who now have 28 packages of pasta, to those who are searching the black market for hand sanitizer, to those who walk around with a face mask, and those who are planning to flee with their kids out of a corona-infected area, never again look down on people who flee from war and famine. Well, one thing, just really quickly, if you're in a corona-infected area, maybe don't flee, okay? Just stay in quarantine. your risk of contracting it while you flee is really high. Your risk of having it and giving it to other people is really high. Your best bet now is to just wait out the quarantine, as far as I can tell. Like, fleeing, the first thing you should tell somebody, even if it might help them, it's not going to help everyone around them. And the first thing you should tell someone who's thinking of fleeing a coronavirus infected area is like, hey, maybe help contain this thing, but instead, no, it's more bullshit about like open borders and just let them in. Even though, as we saw, that one guy in Italy, he spread it around because he didn't have the same sense of social concern. He was told to isolate himself, and he was like, well, no, fuck it, I'm here as cheap labor. I got to get me some of that money for my labor, and who cares what it does to the community? Who cares what it does to the people around me? I'm just going to do this. And this is the kind of thing these guys are promoting. This leads to a less cohesive society. And it leads to a virus spreading. You're like, oh, well, think about that when people want to enter your border. What if they want to enter your border from a country that's way more affected? Come on. This is bad for the globe, by the way. This attitude like makes at-risk countries and countries with more infections, it makes them more at risk because, yes, the global supply chain, your global supply chain, becomes more at risk. It's like, this is a spectacularly bad, ice cold take. Let's see here. And here's some more racial hatred. Any black person who will catch this disease must go to any place where they can find whites to infect many of them. You will see a cure which could come soon. My fellow blacks, let's be ready to go cough hard in Santon, since they created this disease to wire off Africans. Maybe saying wipe out Africans. I don't know what he wants to say there. Whites are safe because they don't have to go to work, which is... Look, white people, by the way, there are black people in Santon, Mr. Manierforce Mnguni. There are black people in Santon, and there are white people who have to go to work, okay? Whites are safe because they don't have to go to work. We are the ones who must go work for them using trains, taxis, walking, etc. We are the ones who stay in a yard with 14 people. Well, if you're in a yard, you're probably okay. If it's like well ventilated and stuff. We are the ones with 80 kids in a class. Well, look, white kids have... I know this is going to shock you, but not all white kids are in private school. And by the way, not all black kids are in public school. Okay? We are the one... Listen to me, I'm like YouTube's terms of services. It's like, no, not everyone is this way. But you know what? It's true. Not everyone is this way. You fucking moron. I can't call him a moron. He's saying people must cough on people because of their ethnicity. You must go out and cough on white people. He's saying that. We are the ones with 80 kids in a class. We are the ones with one clinic per township. We are the ones to gather for alcohol in these clubs while whites just go to the golf course and be safe. Well, look, you can get it in the fucking... Like, maybe golf course is okay, but, you know, you're touching other things people have touched. What about the golf club? I mean, what do you call it? Do you call it a golf club? The thing you hit the golf balls with, called a golf club as well. But the little house that's like a little thing in there. By the way, there's black people that are in the golf clubs. It's maybe disproportionately represented. But this idea that white people don't send their kids to school, that white people don't have to go to work, that white people just play golf all day and that they'll be safe, this is so fucking ignorant. Like, look at this. I know I shouldn't be shocked, but holy shit, my man. What the fuck? Okay, anyway, Now let's get finally to the serious part of this. Coronavirus is making cuckoldry more difficult, which is the real problem on Reddit. According to a report, the coronavirus is making sex lives of those involved in cuckoldry within their relationship a little more challenging. A tweet contained a screenshot from a Reddit post from a polyamory community shows the gripe of a cuckold who cannot find a public place to enjoy some peace and quiet while a significant other is sexually satisfied by a third party. The Redditor, who goes by the pseudonym Pseudonym, tells the internet board about his problem. I see what he did there. Pseudonym. Yeah, very clever. He starts by saying, "So, my office has us all working from home for a couple of weeks as one staff member's wife is undergoing testing." He continues, "This means I'm now going to be at home all the time for a couple of weeks. My wife has an online relationship that their interaction is usually during the day while I'm at the office. I'm sure that the best way to really give them that during this time of day, I know that me being home very much of a different energy in our tiny apartment." I don't want to upset my wife's bull. You know, I wonder if this is a shit poster. Is this guy's real? The pseudonym man later offers that they supposedly dispense advice, a few ideas. He adds, the only thing that I can think of so far would be safe for all involved would be that I might need to take up long walks to leave for 60 to 90 minutes here and there with some coordinations. Like, why don't you, at least you could stay there and masturbate? I thought that was the whole point. Or just stay there locked in a cage, like, and stick things in certain places. I don't know. I thought that's what you guys did. One user with the name Eats Crackers wrote, you might be a carrier, that means your wife might be as well. I assume that you're going to be based in one room. Seems that an equitable solution is to say, I need this room all day. My breakfasts are X, Y, and lunch for Z, and I may wander through the other rooms during those times to pee or eat whatever, but I'll try not to get in your face as best I can. So yeah, this is like, I love the result. Like, this is just the normalizing. Oh, I can't other people based on this, right? So this is a totally normal thing to do, to worry about like men coming in and fucking your wife and giving them their space, instead of being at work because of a global pandemic. And there's definitely nothing wrong with living like this, right? Because that would be othering somebody based on their sexual preference. So this is fine. This is normal. Just treat it like a normal thing. And just say, hey, baby, I'm going to be in this room while you fuck Tyrone. It's all good. And the person going by the alias Risky Business asked, my husband and I have an open marriage. My mother is immunocompromised. Is it unreasonable to ask my husband not to swap fluids with his girlfriend until the coronavirus blows over? Perfectly normal stuff, guys. I can't say this isn't normal because it's not allowed on YouTube. I don't know. I tried to stay within the YouTube guidelines here. Let's hope I don't suddenly get another strike. Everyone try to stay safe as much as you can. Socially isolate. With masks, wear them if you got them. Hand sanitizer, use it if you got them. Wash your hands with soap, okay? I don't know if soap kills the thing or just like they can't stick and that washes it off, but watch these videos on how to properly wash your hands. Turns out, my whole life, I've been improperly washing my hands. So watch those videos. Keep up to date. Some of us aren't going to make it. Some people you love might not make it. Just stay strong, guys. It's a tough situation. I'm worried about people treating it like a normal thing. A lot of people here saying I'm overreacting. But I'd rather overreact than underreact because there's no way of knowing if we've overreacted or underreacted. So yeah, I was talking about the parable where the aliens realize that microscopic life is the true dominant life on Earth. That I thought that was a Carl Sagan quote. I know some people are going, oh, Carl Sagan, he's a this and this. I don't care. He had a lot of good insights, I think, about stuff like this. And his real quote, this is one I found while trying to look for it, and this is just why you should take this really seriously. Don't take it as a given that things are going to be okay or we're just going to get through this normally. I hope we are, but things are going to change from here on out. If you remember what happened after 9/11, things changed across the world, and this is going to be somewhat similar. Things are going to change. How much things change, how much your area deals with it, I don't know. What the future is for me here, I don't know. I am fairly glad I'm in Korea instead of South Africa, but I'm worried about my family back there. And yeah, so anyway, because it is clear from this is the real Carl Sagan quote. Because it is clear from the fossil record that almost every species that have ever... Let me try again. Because it is clear from the fossil record that almost every species that has ever existed is extinct. Extinction is the rule. Survival is the exception. That's all I think about that for now. I'm Joe, and I'm not shadow banned yet.